Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to Everyone Talks to Liz. I hope this podcast is doing one important thing, encouraging you to think of ways to reach out and grab your wildest dreams. You guys know me. I am a firm believer that there are stunning stories of success all around us. You just have to pay attention and look for them. So that's what I do. I'm always looking for them. Mid-March, height of the New York, New Jersey pandemic lockdowns, I was working 17 hours a day at home, no time to make dinner. I went to Jersey Mike's sandwich shop in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It was really late, I think almost like 9 p.m. Every restaurant had either shut down for the foreseeable future because of the strict no indoor dining orders or had severely cut their hours. I was like, don't close. I ran in, I started talking to the manager, and he said, you know what? We've never been busier. He also said that he felt like so many local families were depending on this little store for dinner, and it made him feel really special. So thinking about my next podcast guest, it felt like there had to be a good backstory to Jersey Mike's. Good? Try this. A 14-year-old boy working at a sub shop in his New Jersey town, and at 17 years old, he buys the shop, then turns it into a franchise, and today there are more than 2,000 locations across the United States, Canada, and Australia. So I said, we got to track him down. We welcome that once 14-year-old boy, Jersey Mike's franchise system CEO, Peter Cancro, to Everyone Talks to Liz. What a story, Peter.
Thank you, Liz. And I heard you did come into the shop, and right away I said, well, what sub did you order, and did they take care of you? I always want to make sure everyone is good. And you better tell me if it's not, because we always try and make it good every time. That's our goal.
Oh, the Fort Lee team, they were teenagers, and the manager, I got to tell you, didn't look that much older than 20-something, the night manager, and he was so professional. Nice. And I thought, I got to over-tip everybody. It was a really special moment for me.
Great.
But Peter, you are the living American dream, but I want to take our listeners back to the 1970s when you were 14.
Yeah.
And how did you get the job at this little single standing sub shop?
Yeah, so the original store started by Mike in 1956, so there was a Mike, and incredible volume in the summer. We were an hour south of Manhattan, so we had all the New Yorkers and North Jerseyites, if you will, coming down to the small beach towns on the Jersey Shore. So you either went to the Hamptons for the big hedges out there, or you came down to the Jersey Shore. Maybe a little bit more family oriented. Nothing against Long Island, but the Jersey and Long Island confrontation, if you will.
Of course.
So I started at 14. My brother John had worked there the summer before and told the boss, say, look at, my brother, I'm not sure how bright he is, but I know he'll work hard. So how brothers are. But that's kind of how the place was. Entire families worked there. All the Brodeurs, all the Manzos, all the Mangificos. So it was kind of a community spot where everybody worked. That was one of the jobs that was prestigious to be. The lobster shanty, Hoffman's ice cream. So I got the job at 14 and worked summers and part-time through the winters. And then the owner, put it up for sale. And the story, I never thought for a second that I would look at buying that store ever. And then that one night, my mother said, oh, I heard the store is for sale. Why don't you buy it? And I said, well, sort of laughed and went upstairs. But it was that flight of stairs where the light switch went off. And there you go, got up and tried to raise the capital.
Well, hold on a minute. Your mom turns to a 17-year-old and says, why don't you buy it? I'm assuming, did she offer you the money?
No, Mom, they came from lower middle class. Dad was an auto mechanic. We didn't have the money. But, times back then, everybody was sort of graduating high school younger. The drinking age was 18. Things were happening with younger people. Probably, again, a lot more than they are now, because it was just the way it was.
How did you get the money?
So went out for a week, kind of knocking on doors, and found out very fast that it's difficult to raise capital. People believed in me and heard the story, but couldn't help me. And then finally, at the end of the week, the owner said, look, I've got about a week that I can give you. I had two other people demanding contract, and I knocked on his door. I called him up. He said, come over. It was a Sunday night after 9 o'clock, and he said, I think we can do something, and he did. So we closed, the end of March, my senior year in high school, and was 17, and off I went. So I went to homeroom history class and skipped gym and a few other courses, but finally graduated. I was president of my class and was managed to graduate.
So a real underachiever here. Let me just get this straight for our listeners. Your youth football coach got you the money.
Rod Smith.
How much money?
So back then, 1975, it was $125,000. So maybe about $700,000 today, something like that.
He trusted a 17-year-old kid?
Yeah. And that's what we sort of shrug our shoulders and laugh about today. You know, how did that happen? You know?
Well, you made it happen. Obviously, he saw something in you, but you're 17. Didn't you have other plans? Did you plan to go to college? What had been your hopes and dreams up until that point?
So I was going to go study law and political science, looking at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And I had a football coach, high school, that had the film sent down. I was going to be a walk-on to North Carolina. Wow. I was a running back and defensive back as well. So probably would have played D-back in Division I. But thank God I can still walk around today, you know?
Yeah, that's no joke. We've talked to a lot of former NFL players and they're hurting. They're physically hurting, and many of them have gone into business, but they face physical challenges. You face different kinds of challenges. So you're 17, you're now in charge, you're the boss, yet you had no formal business experience. What were the first couple of years like? Right.
So working the summers and working in the business, I had that background and had a great boss that I bought from Victor Merlo, and was a great mentor and person to follow. So really wasn't me and my thing. It was just me carrying it forward. But what you learned real fast, like the first was, gosh, you hadn't raised the prices in maybe 7 years. And all of a sudden I'm saying, what's going on? And I realized, well, I had to raise the prices. And, you know, you look at the payroll and a quarterly unemployment and disability insurance and all kinds of things in business that really had no knowledge of. You're learning fast, and everything worked out. We had the volume, slow winters. And then finally, you know, people taking the subs, wrap the travel around the country. London, every third Thursday, the guy used to come in and take the subs back to London and down. No one had the product like ours around the country back then.
Well, I always talk to people like you and I say, it's one thing to have the first store. We had the founder of Auntie Anne's Pretzels on. It's the second one. Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah.
The second store. When did you realize I could expand this thing?
Yeah, so we opened up the store right before we started franchising in 1986. And the store was the first couple of days kind of slow. And I was like, uh-oh. But then it really took off, and it was doing more than the first store, maybe 2.5 miles away. And I said, wow, I think we've got something. We started franchising after that in the beginning of 87.
When did Mike's become Jersey Mike's?
That was the time. We said Mike's is too generic. There was Mike's this, Mike's that, but Jersey Mike's. The sub sandwich is kind of a way of life for New Jersey food, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Idaho potato, Tex-Mex. Well, the submarine sandwich, if you look at it, every 7-Eleven, Quick Check, Wawa, pizza place, all sell subs. And so Jersey Mike Subs was a name that really resonated across the country.
Franchising, that seems to be a big bite to chew. What made you think at the point when you don't have an MBA, you don't know all about flow charts and all kinds of things like that, you know what, we should turn this into a franchising model? What tickled your brain about that?
So that's where, again, people were taking the subs, wrap the travel. They wanted to open. They wanted me to show them how to open. And we decided, you know, enough talking to people and some different attorneys that, you know, we would franchise. So we got the contracts together and off we went. And we never tried to sell the franchise. It just sort of took off in 87, 88, 89, you know, really kind of grew. Ocean-Monmouth County. And then we went right out to Ohio and then Tennessee. And I found that, wow, we can cross borders and territory. Nobody knows us, but you open up and you kind of own that local community and you win the best sub award, you know, voted by Reader's Choice Awards.
Oh, wow.
And then
the Holy Grail.
And then 91 hit, you know.
Well, I was going to say, there is no path that is without stumbling blocks. It's not just stepping stones. Tell me about 1991.
So I had maybe 6 employees in a 400 square foot office over one of the stores. And we were just putting everything we had back into the company, into marketing, into training, into working lunch rushes, then going up and working the office. And it was just nonstop. And we were probably up to about 35 stores or so. And then the banks were lending money to anyone, just handing the money over, no problem. And then it got shut down. The Northeast banks went down. Even a local bank in our area went out. So no one could borrow money, and we sort of flatlined. And I had to let, the whole crew go, but slowly brought them back. After about 4 months, the first one came back, and then amazing how much payroll, how much of the bills you can pay when you don't have any payroll.
Well, Peter, talk about the trigger of that implosion. It's always economic in many cases, and that's what people are dealing with today. And if we have business leaders who are small business people, which is what you used to be, what did you do then that saved Jersey Mike's from the fate that we're seeing thousands of small businesses endure, and that is bankruptcy or just going out of business?
Right. And that's just a tragedy. But the small businesses, the restaurants, a lot of them have pivoted and gone to that. Let's do outside dining. Let's do takeout. Let's carry out. And a lot of them have done that. And some have done even more business doing that than ever before. But there's so many that maybe couldn't or didn't, it's just a shame. So for me, I had to, go to work, go visit all the stores, do all the marketing, do everything, the chief cook and bottle washer, if you will. So, but we rose out of it. And then we started adding stores in North Carolina, probably not until like a good 3-4 years later. So, when some people say they had an off day or off month, I said, well, I've had an off decade almost sometimes. So, but you just have to stay with it. I could have gone bankrupt, but I said, no way. And somehow persevered through it, but for the grace of God, there go I, right?
Well, people think that it's easy, or they say he somehow got so many breaks. Yeah, you got your business chops broken, your legs broken, your brain was probably just overwhelmed at certain points where you thought, how am I going to do this? Is it true you had to fire your own brother during that time?
Yeah, older brother John, the one that got me the job originally. So, but obviously he's with me and one of my chief consultants. Anything I'm doing in business, I always consult with him. And pretty smart guy, been around forever, so knows the business well. He came back, within a short amount of time.
All right. Well, he was the one who told the original Jersey Mike's, I don't know if my brother's that bright, but he can slice meat. So, it's even now. Talk about controlling the quality that you demand. When you've got franchises, you can't be in 2,000 different stores at once, making sure that they're doing things to your standards. How do you maintain it so that when I walk into the Jersey Mike's in Fort Lee, it's the same one at LAX Airport?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. You know about the one in LAX Airport, huh? All right.
Peter, let me tell you, I hit it every time I'm heading back to the East Coast. But the problem is during COVID, they stopped stopped selling my favorite tuna sub.
Yeah, we had to kind of.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
bring it back. I'll be happy.
Yeah, we'll bring it back. So the thing is training. It's nonstop. And when they come into training, they go into individual stores and do their training. And it's about 2.5 months that 3 people have to go through. It's pretty substantial and all encompassing. And then the best part is they have to come back to Jersey for 5 days to get that culture, and John Hughes heads the training. And it's all about, putting others first before yourself. It's all about pulling people along, the culture of rising up together. And that's kind of what we're all about. And that's how you get and you recruit all of these young people. They said in the 70s, you don't know these kids today, you can't find good help. In the 80s and 90s, and that's what they're saying today. You don't understand, you can't find good people. Well, I don't take it. No, you got to always be recruiting. And they're attracted to companies that treat them with respect. When I was 14, I went to work at Mike's and my voice mattered. And that's the kind of culture that it was. So
how so? How do you continue to bring that through the genetics of Jersey Mike's? What do you do differently when you walk into random Jersey Mike's?
Yeah, just go in and go right behind the counter, and the owner will be there. I'll walk right by him or her and go right behind the counter. So the kids start making some subs, ask them what they're doing this summer, how you holding up, what's happening, kind of, talk to them, and then say, hey, I started here when I was 14, sprinkling and wrapping subs. What are you doing? And, what do you want to achieve? And always tell them that people have a kind of certain view of them, what they're going to say about them. So work hard, get a reputation for yourself, the old model.
This is Everyone Talks to Liz, and we'll be right back. Who won't you allow to buy a franchise? What is a deal breaker? You meet people who are dying to open a Jersey Mike's and they think, oh, I could do this.
Yeah. Well, first, obviously, they're all financially qualified. That's always, they come in, they're financially qualified, but they have to fit our culture. And that's our culture of giving. Our mission statement is giving, making a difference in someone's life. That's our mission statement. And we have a big day of giving in March, I'm sure you've heard of.
Yep.
The last Wednesday in March, we raised almost $8 million last year. And, next year, maybe over $9 million. It's all local charities all around the country. And all year we go new store openings. We go after a local charity. So the new person coming in has got to get that they try a product. It's not so much, oh gosh, how much money they have or this. It's whether they're going to wear the apron and care about raising up together, about pulling people along. They have that personality, that they have the energy, that we're looking for, like You've got the energy. We're going to get you. We're going to be sprinkling and wrapping. All right. You got to promise me we'll do that one day.
I promise. I will train. But my peeps in Fort Lee, I can't compete with them. I'm in Edgewater. I got to tell you, these guys in Fort Lee, they are phenomenal. Yeah. How many do you own outright for the company?
So we have about 75, but we're in and out of corporate stores, but it's mostly a franchise concept. That's our model. We like to coach, mentor, and be involved with the owners. So we have about 500 owners, and the average is about 3 to 4 units, but we have 200 people that have 1 unit. That's all you need. It's just one store, one good store. So that's a tribute to our concept as well. That one store and you can make a really good living.
But it wasn't enough just to get to the point where you're doing amazingly. I won't say coasting. Coasting is a dirty word for real business people, right? But you recently decided to launch something even bigger that works with that, as I say, genetics of Jersey Mike's. And it goes back to that moment where Coach Rod Smith saw something in you and invested in your future. What are you doing today that reflects back to that?
So it was we always kind of looked at key players and said, wow, let's try and get you to get involved and get some ownership in a store. But last October, November, and December, I went out nationwide and we talked about the retrofitting all the stores with the new look. And everybody does it, restaurants, maybe every 10 years. We're doing this one now about 7 or 8 years in. Perfect timing. But I feel it's a tactical move for our company. And this is a lead into the Rod Smith, so bear with me. And we went out to the owners and we said, you got to invest in your stores. The same store sales will rise when you put money back in. Everybody knows that. Part of your franchise agreement, you have to do it. They have to invest money and redo the store. And so we refaced it. New tables and chairs, new counters, new backline tile, gorgeous, a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more upscale, but still us. We have the black and white photos. Now, Fort Lee has not been done yet. So we'll invite you into a couple of stores nearby when they're done.
Just fly me out to Beverly Hills. I know the Beverly Hills one has been done.
We have one right in the corner there. Great owner, right? John Cotter. So once you put the money in, we felt that it's going to raise up sales. We're going to pay it off in a 4 or 5 year period. It's a great tactical move for the company. So when I told all the owners, we went to 27 cities. There was about 250 people in every meeting. And it was sort of the road show, the rock and roll tour, we call it. And the owners were in tears when they heard it. $75,000 a store. Some owners owned, 3 or 4 stores. So that's, $300,000. So they said, we're going to invest and we're going to open new stores. So the goodwill, the trust that comes in with your owners, I don't call them franchisees, I call them partners, owners. And no franchise company in the history has ever done that, as far as I know. And so it's a total of about 150 million. So the owners are in tears. Everybody's all excited and fired up. And I said, okay, now that the owners are excited, I want to announce something else. And I told my story about how I got started. And then Coach Rod Smith gave me an opportunity, a shot. And I said, I want to give you a shot. I said, not for 1 second did I ever think about buying that store when it was up for sale. How many of you here have ever thought about taking the next step? How long have you worked? 4 years behind the counter. I'm managing. I'm overseeing 2 stores. How long have you worked? 3 years. And a lot of people, they have so much experience. That's who we want to go forward with. Similar to Tom Monahan, Domino's Pizza, he raised up from within, and he's on our advisory council. He's about 82 years old, an unbelievable guy, and it's just so great to talk to. But that's how he grew, and that's how we're growing. So I announced anyone there, the company will sign the lease, because they can't sign their own lease today because it's too much collateral, landlords want. So I said the company will sign the lease, put up all the money, about $400,000, and then they pay it back, but they will own the store 100%. And then we give half the royalties for 3 years to the owner that lost their assistant manager or lost one of their workers. So it's a win-win for everybody. And they were in tears, so we had a very emotional 27 city tour. So it was well received. The first one looks like it's going to open up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have a couple in California. So we're hoping to get in the next year about 25 deals. We want 50 after that. We hope to be at about 100 deals a year, or, 40 million, a year.
Peter, if you had to describe yourself when it comes to business, sometimes people would say, well, I'm sharp-elbowed. Well, I can be cutthroat. Well, I'm open and welcoming. How would you describe the characteristic that has made you a success today?
Yeah, so it comes from watching in high school Bob Hoffman of Hoffman's Ice Cream, Jack Baker from the local lobster shanty restaurant. They gave unconditionally to the community, to the kids. And watching that, being a participant of it, and they volunteered to the first aid in small town. As soon as I got into business, I said, this is what we're going to do. And you commit to the community. So that's what I'm about. What can we do? You're always looking for a need and trying to fill that need with people. And you see it in their eyes when you're at Starbucks or you're out somewhere, they come into the store, you're winning them over, and it's just an incredible feeling. You're always giving of yourself. And then we always call it the power of the sub sandwich.
What have you learned from operating in this pandemic?
Yeah, so the first weekend, my head hit the pillow with everybody else saying, oh boy, because we got hit like everybody else the first couple of weeks, down maybe 40% or something like that. Everybody got crushed because the governors came on and said, we're shutting down. And what the people heard is we're shutting down. They didn't hear that there was exceptions. We were allowed to stay open and serve the public, first responders and, senior citizen homes, and families in need. It was incredible what we did. And we did a march to try and give away 1 million subs to all the needy around the country. Well, to date, we're almost at 4 million.
You're kidding.
Yeah. So, and we wrote money enough to sponsor that million sub challenge, and the owners just took off, and they wanted to do it. And it's just unbelievable. Like Boca Raton, the people called, they were looking for subs for about 30 or 40 people. How many do you have? 1,500 people at the hospital. We fed the whole hospital. And, it's just things like that are just so exciting, gratifying. You know how that is when you give, it just feels so great.
It feels great, but you're a businessman, and you're probably at that moment watching. I've talked to millions of business people between March and today, and some of them said, Liz, my heart dropped. I didn't know how I could handle this and how I would be able to stay in business. So giving is really great, Peter, but at some point, did you send out the word, guys, you got to keep your doors open. People are depending on us, but we need to keep our doors open so that we stay alive.
So here's our playbook one more time. This is exactly what we did. It first happened in that first week. We dropped the fees in half on the marketing and the royalty. So 5% down. So immediately I said, keep on to your cash. We wrote a letter to the landlord saying, hey, if you can help us out, we'd love not to pay our rent for 3 months. We'd love not to pay our mortgage for 3 months. We're not going anywhere, but this is what we're doing. So we coached them along with that. And then the payroll protection. I couldn't believe that the government was doing that. I was like, what? It was an incredible program for small businesses that took advantage of it. And we took everybody. Friday, we found out about it. Sunday night, we had 1,000 people on the phone, on a webinar, taking them step by step on what they had to do, because they didn't really know. They had to get the 12 months payroll, average it out. So we taught and trained every single owner, and everyone got funded, everyone. Wow. Of course, our company, they said you could get it. And I go, I don't know about that. I don't think that sounds right. And it's fortunate we didn't take the money, because some people did. And it was like, whoa, what are you doing? That's not right. But they corrected that. An incredible program. And it really helped a lot of small businesses like ours. And, fortunately, we kept open, mostly takeout by the curb. We put tables in front of the counters, so we're 8 feet, 10 feet away from the people making the product. So it really worked out well for us. We were mostly all takeout from the beginning. So it really didn't matter that we lost the seating. So fortunately, we did well. But boy, we took it and we ran with it and helping so many people. And I got to tell you one more thing. At night, I saw all the cars lined up for the food banks. And I was so touched by that. In the middle of the night, I got up and wrote a 30-second commercial. And we went on the air and said, we're going to Feeding America. We raised $2.2 million in a special weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So that was 22 million meals. A great organization, a great lady that was the CEO. We chatted, and I think we're going back. We want to do it again, before Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. It is a story.
Weekend, we're going to do it.
It is a story of eking out a living from day one, learning as you went along, not being afraid to take a dive where you didn't know how shallow or how deep the water was. And we are so grateful for you to come on to Everyone Talks to Liz and tell this story, Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
And I'm telling you, tuna subs, everyone, the best. Darling. Have you ever thought of expanding beyond that core sub sandwich?
Well, you ever watch The Founder with Michael Keaton about McDonald's? They cut 85% of their menu. Right. You got to keep it simple. You got to stay with your strength. And we're so diversified, though. Hot, cold subs. It's just so much variety. We're good with what we have.
Good to see you, Peter. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Hope to see you in the shop.
Well, I love the story, and we'll be watching Thanksgiving. Imagine that, 4 million subs given away to first responders and to all the people on the front lines. Thank you for all you and your whole team do. Peter Cancro of Jersey Mike's. I love the name. It's so eye-catching and ear-catching, and for a Jersey resident.
Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore, right. Listen, Beach Haven. I had a house or two that I rented in the Jersey Shore.
Sorry.
We love the story, and we appreciate all of our listeners taking the time to glean inspiration from this. We hope that you tune in every week, because we drop a new one. That's the term. We drop a new one every single week, and each and every one of them have been my favorites. How's that for taking a real stand, Liz? Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you Monday through Friday on the Fox Business Network for the Claman Countdown. For more podcasts like this, go to foxnewspodcasts.com.